Alright guys, this bike right here is a bike with a serious personality disorder. The 2014 Ducati Hyperstrada. On one side, you're a mild-mannered touring bike with luggage, handguards, a rear rack for your personal items, and a passenger pillion comfort for two. But that's not all this bike hides, because without the luggage, it looks a little sportier. Let's take a look at that. And just like that, we're into a hooligan bike. Very sports oriented. You want to lean this sucker into corners, you want to do wheelies, you want to jump curbs, you want to do all sorts of stuff. So you kind of have two bikes in one. But how does that work out in reality? Let's take a look and take a ride. So first of all, this bike is based on a Hypermotard, so it is the Ducati Hypermotard with a more comfortable seat, a better windscreen for more protection, and then racks in the back for your luggage. I think we need to take this baby out and give her a ride. Alright guys, so as we get into the review of the Ducati Hyperstrada, there's a couple things to point out that I really haven't pointed out yet. First of all, yes, it has two personalities, a sort of touring bike, and then a very sporty hooligan, what do you call it, play toy. So a cool thing about this is, hey, guess what? We have a center stand on a Hypermotard. And that's really cool for changing tires and doing maintenance and all of that, and actually loading up your luggage, so that's a pretty cool deal. I do hear that scrapes on the ground once in a while. I haven't really experienced that yet, so we'll go out and ride it here in a minute. And of course you have your side stand there. Other than that, basically we're looking at a Hypermotard with some luggage and a more comfortable seat, and the bars are up a bit higher. You can tell they have a riser here and a spacer, so riser and spacer, pretty cool. We got the titanium exhaust on it, nice touch. And let's go look at some more of this bike and how you can manage those two personalities. First of all, let's start her up. Alright, we've got some ride modes, and I'm not sure if you guys can see this, but we are in sport right now. We're going to change that. We'll go down to, let's say, what is it, touring or urban? We're going to be in urban settings, so we'll go with urban. You hold it in, and just like that, we are in urban setting. They have stock settings, and then you can go in and you can actually change those settings to however you like them. So in the sport setting, you can turn off traction control completely, turn ABS down quite a bit and be quite the hooligan. Go switch it over to the urban mode or touring mode, and the bike changes completely. It is a drastic change from urban or touring to sport. You can feel it immediately. It's absolutely a complete change. So we're in urban. We'll ride around here a little bit, and in urban setting, this is a pretty mellow bike. You get some U-turns nice and easily. These bikes turn around pretty easily. They tend to have a bit of a heavier steering than, say, like a dual sport, because it's got bigger, fatter tires and they're a bit shorter. But they certainly turn a little easier than, say, a sport bike in the parking lots. So for parking lot duty, not bad. I give this a big thumbs up. Easy to ride. I am absolutely flat-footed on this bike. Easily. Knees are bent, flat-footed. That's pretty nice. Even on the 1100, the older version of this bike, I'm almost sort of tippy-toed a little bit, maybe a bit tippy-toed. This one flat-footed, that seat's nice and flat and pretty comfortable. We're going to take her out and do some windy roads a bit and try it out there. Alright guys, we're out on the windy road here, and we'll have a little bit of fun, see what this bike is like. I have it in urban mode, and urban mode is really sweet. It's a nice smooth ride. It doesn't give you, there's no jerkiness. The power band is very smooth, very linear. There's no abruptness in that power band. Really nice. Now we want to switch that over, and so we're going to switch it to sport. Hold that in, and we've got it now in sport mode, and sport mode is entirely different. This is where this bike has a distinctive personality change, and I think we'll have to play with this a little bit after we do the windy road up to the what I call the lake. We're going to come back down, and when we start coming back down, I'll start playing with that so you can kind of, I think you'll be able to tell the difference just by listening and being along for the ride. It is dramatic change. Where some bikes you're like, I think that changed something. There's no thinking it changed something on this bike. It's a dramatic change. Let's run it up through the gears here a little bit. And that's a nice smooth run up through the gears in sport mode, and you can hear it and feel it's really strong through that, and it's progressively stronger and stronger. There's actually a point at which you sort of feel a power band hit in. If I really get on the gas and open it wide open, then I think you can really tell that. We'll do that here in a little bit, but first just kind of giving a good idea of this, the idea of this sport mode. Direct from that throttle just snaps right in there, and that's at about 5,000 RPM, and you can feel a good amount of power. At 8,000 RPM, it's fantastic. Quite a power band and quite a bit of RPM range with this bike. I don't want to ruin somebody's day. This is a nice scooter ride out here, so we'll slow her down a little bit. The ergonomics of this bike is something I'll mention right now. It is a small motorcycle. It feels like you're riding a BMX bike with just a tremendous amount of power. When you first get on board this bike, you're like, oh, I think it might be a little small. I'm 6 foot tall, so I feel like, oh, it might be a little small. And I kind of get used to it. You hang in there. The only issue that I have is my foot position. I end up resting my heels on the foot pegs, and if I go into corners like that, I start dragging my feet, and that's something with some of these shorter stature bikes I end up doing, so I just have to remember to put my toes up on the pegs. So if you're over 6 foot, really this bike may feel a bit small, just at least the first when you get on it, but you might want to give it a chance because you get used to it really quickly. What else? So there's got this nice windscreen on here, and since I've got a couple of minutes, let me talk about this windscreen. One, it provides a little bit of wind off your chest, but I still get it right under the helmet, so it's quite loud. But you'll find on a lot of these bikes, you'll see this windscreen shakes around a bit. It's rubber mounted underneath this little bezel, and that rubber mount, there's little spacers with the plastic part of the mounting bracket, and you can only tighten it up so much, and after a while it gets loose, so that it'll just rattle back and forth. So a couple of little washers in there, and it tightens it right back up like it was when it was stock. So a little heads up, not too hard to get to, but it's going to take you 20-30 minutes to do that job. What else? Mirrors are pretty good. I can see out of about half of the mirror. That's okay. I'd like them a little bit farther out and a little bit bigger, because a little bit small. I can see what I need to, but nothing more. Bar position's good, and it shifts really nicely. Nice transmission in it. There's no quick shifter up or down, but you've got a lot of control over how the power band works. So you've got a lot of control over traction control, and it tells you on the display where you're set at right now. At Sport, I have traction control at 3, ABS at 1. Here, let's give it a little ride. Nice and smooth through the corners. It likes to rev. corners. For something that feels so short, it really is stable. A lot more stable than you might ever think it would be. I'm really surprised. I don't see a steering damper on here, and this thing is stable in the corners. This is the first time I've really ridden this bike, and it is planted. The bars aren't moving around. It doesn't feel twitchy. You know, high-speed corners, it's doing really well. Suspension is really nice for the street. It's not super soft. It feels soft, right? Like when you're hitting little tiny bumps, you're like, oh, it's a little bit soft, but it seems firmer as you're going down. And I'm not sure if you're doing, you know, on the track, if that might be a little soft or not, but for the street, it's really nice. It soaks up some of those bumps. Yeah, I would say that, so I've got a 32-inch inseam. If you've got a 34-inch inseam, you're going to find that it's the distance from the seat to the pegs may be a bit short, but it's certainly not so, I mean, you look at my legs down here, I'm not like really cramped. I'm just, you know, if you were touring, because it has you know, you get touring bags with this thing. All right, so we're going to play a little bit with the. Hey guys, thanks for hanging out this long. You know, I know that some of these videos you just want to turn it off now. We're going to check out the ride modes a little bit here and kind of play with that. Just two modes. I'm going to worry about touring and sport. Urban's around town, you just want that to be mellow. Touring, you want it to be even more mellow. So we're going to kind of the difference between those two. And also, if you could just take 1 second and go down there, and I think it's that way, there's a little subscribe button, and if you can just click that. Doesn't really do anything for, you know, notifications. If you want that, you need to hit the little bell, then you'll get notified of my new videos. But it does help me with the subscriptions. I want to get it up there over 1,000. It'd be awesome. You know, maybe when you're watching this, I've got, you know, 1,001, but I would still love to have the subscriptions there. It gets my videos out to more people, and more people, you know, when they're trying to make a decision on a bike, it gets them a good idea to take a look at these bikes and see what you might want. When you're looking at this bike, you may be looking at a full-on super motard or the Hyperstrada, or some other things like you know, a naked bike or something like that. And I really think that the naked bike has a lot more versatility. This is a little bit more specific as far as, you know, the windy roads and spending time on the back roads, and mainly back roads and all that kind of stuff. With the touring bags though, you really could take this bike anywhere, and maybe this is a second bike or you know, something like that, to where you're saying, you know, I want to finally go to one bike, but I would need that hooligan type activity. And then maybe this is a great bike because you get the luggage and all of that, which is pretty cool. So so that's a big possibility. I'm just going to see if this guy wants to come and talk to me, because I like a lot of guys that come up here and talk to me and chat, so we shall see. All right, so great conversation with that gentleman right there. And he's been up Mines Road, and looks like everything's open. There's been a bit of a fire. If you're not from around this part of California, there's been quite a fire up Mines Road. That's a great back roads for us. You can do 100 miles of windy, twisty roads, and it's been closed for a while. All right. So now that, thank you for hitting that subscribe button down there. That totally helps me out. I appreciate it. And if you didn't do it, just take a second, do it right now. Boom. Okay, done. Sport mode. All right, all we got to do is hit the blinker cancel button once, and it puts us into the menu. I hit it again and go into touring. If I hold it down, then I'm in touring mode. Now, one other quick note, if you've got this bike and you're wondering, how do I adjust those? You just hold it in and keep holding it, and it should just go into the next screen. Should have. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Let's see, touring. Maybe I can't remember how to get in there. Oh, you know what? I think you do. You go like that, and then is it that button? There's always a combination. I'll probably edit that out because I don't know what I'm doing. Let's see. Touring mode. Oh yeah, I think you hit one of these buttons. That one's not doing it. I want to show you. Okay, so it was the down button, and then you can change all the settings of this. So I can change the mode, I can change all of, you know, which one of the modes I'm changing, all of that. So there's all the parameters that you can change. And if I go back down here, I'm going to go to the exit, and I'm back out, and I'm in touring. So we're going to go with touring here for just a second. And you can even tell, like, taking off, I've got a lot more distance in the throttle. I can turn the throttle a lot more without too much happening, and it's nice and smooth. That power delivery is really smooth. It's not abrupt, it's just nice and smooth. And I probably have a lot of helmet noise, you can't hear this, but even when I get off the gas, there's no popping or anything coming from the exhaust. It's all just really smooth. Now I can change these settings on the fly, so I'm cruising along here, and I want to go into sport mode, so I'm in sport mode now. And then it says to turn off the, you know, let off the accelerator, and it puts it right into sport mode. Now the difference here is that when I get on the gas, I mean, you can hear the exhaust difference, and it just has a lot more pull immediately, like just boom, like that, right there. It's not slow to react. I mean, it's just immediate. I just turn that throttle a little bit, and boom, it's gone. It's real aggressive. There's just a massive difference, and you can hear it in the exhaust. When I got on the exhaust before, you really couldn't hear it. I got on the exhaust. When I got on the accelerator. So let's see, now that was a sport mode, and I think you can really hear that exhaust really loud. So I'm going to go back into, let's see, touring mode again. Hold that down. In just a second, I'm in touring mode. And now let's see, same gear, everything. Well, I'll even downshift. Now give it some gas. You don't hear the exhaust that much. So it's really changed quite a bit. I get on the gas, I've got to turn the throttle a lot more. And getting on and off the throttle, it's just not as abrupt. We'll switch back to sport mode again, and it says turn off the throttle then, and then all of a sudden it's a lot more abrupt. So it's kind of nice. You can choose your setting there, and just whoa. It turns into a beast, and it just accelerates in that's pretty awesome. So I mean, really, two bikes in one. At least you get to control that. We used an analogy yesterday on reviewing bikes, and what, you know, is a rated R bike, a rated R movie type motorcycle, or is it a PG-13? You kind of get both worlds in this. You can set it up total hooligan. You can turn off that traction control. You can turn off the ABS. If you want to, you turn off that traction control and you're just going to wheelie all the time. Boom, 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 boom. You turn ABS, you can turn it on, turn it off. If you want to back into corners, you know, you can adjust how much of that. I think there's, I don't remember how many settings. There's like 8 settings or something like that. So you can fine tune that ABS and that traction control the way you like it. Quite a bit of versatility in this motorcycle, and absolutely fun. I've forgotten, you know, I talk about how short this, you know, small this bike is, and right now I forgot about that. It's I've gotten used to it, and it feels just right. I will say that the one thing you don't get on this bike is anywhere to move on the seat. I'm locked in on this bike, and I've talked about on other bikes where you've got some room to move around. On this motorcycle, there's no move. You can move side to side, but you can't move front or back. My bottom is right up against that back part of the seat where it comes up for the passenger, and the front part of me, it's just where it inclines a little bit to go to the tank. It's not a steep incline in the front, so it's of course not uncomfortable, which is nice. But I'm absolutely locked into position. You just don't feel like you're going to go anywhere on this bike, and that's maybe a really good feeling. I like to be able to move around a little bit, but it's good to be held in tight as well, especially a bike that's got so much power. All right, guys. Let's see. We'll give it a little bit here. Let's take one last look at this bike. All right, guys, this is the Hyperstrada 2014 Ducati. It's cool. This one's also got special issue graphics on it. That was a bit of an extra for the previous owner. Tasteful upgrade, looks really nice. That is 2014 Ducati Hyperstrada. Boom!